What's going on, everyone? This is Chris on Around the ATL Side Notes. How is everybody doing today? For those who are watching from wherever you're watching from, thanks for your support. Make sure you subscribe to the IMTM Worldwide Radio YouTube channel that's scrolling up across the page. That will help out a lot. And today we're going to be talking about narratives. And I'm using one of the best players of all time to see if I can get some people who believe in the narrative, the false narrative that surrounds Trae Young, to change their minds. Today is that day. Today I had some time in amongst all the other stuff I was trying to catch up on over the last few months that I'm doing today and still going to be doing this evening as well. Before I get started, of course, you can follow on the IMTM Worldwide Radio YouTube channel and also on Facebook. You can also follow on IMTM Radio on Twitter. I guess I could pull that up real quick. There it is. And also my co-host Jordan Jackson, Jordan23 ATL on Twitter as well. Now, that being said, let's talk some basketball. Is Michael Jordan trash? According to your narrative about Trae Young, he has to be. Trae Young is trash. So Michael Jordan is also trash. Okay. But before I get to talk about Michael Jordan, I want to talk about Jalen Brunson real quick. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, Jalen Brunson scored 43 points, correct? Game 2, 36 points. Both times his team lost. So despite scoring 43 points and 36 points in consecutive games, his team lost at home against the Pacers. Brunson must be trash. Team lost. It doesn't matter if he scored 43 points, right? He's stat padded. Why can't you say that? Because that's what people say about Trae Young. Stat padded. In game 1, he had 5 assists total. He also had 7 turnovers. 7. But Brunson is trash because that's what you say about Trae Young. Nobody else on the team played bad. Right? No one else on the Knicks played bad game 1 or game 2 for that matter, right? Game 2, he had 36 points, 11 assists though, but he was 5 of 12 from the field. No, my bad, 5 of 12 from 3 in the game. 5 of 12, is that good or bad? 5 of 12 from 3, right? Also in the same series, Tyrese Halliburton in game 2 went 5 for 16 in that same game that Brunson had 36 points, and he went 3 of 10 from 3, but his team won. So I guess Tyrese isn't trash because his team won, right? And then game 3, the Pacers had a chance to basically destroy the Knicks, go up 3-0 in Indiana. Did Tyrese do well in that game? If it wasn't for Siakam scoring 39 points, right? But I guess it was Brunson's job to stop Siakam from scoring 39 points. Brunson is trash, right? Anthony Edwards in the playoffs, he's trash too, right? He got to be, per your narrative on Trae Young. Game 1, he was 5 of 13 from the floor for 18 points. Game 2 is 1 of 9 from 3. 1 of 9. But he had 32 points, though. He had 9 rebounds. He had 6 assists. But his team lost. Anthony Edwards is trash. Team lost. Doesn't matter what he did. But everybody else on the team played well, right? Rudy Gobert had 6 points and 6 rebounds. That's good. Conley had 3 points. Starter. Julius Randle, starter, 6 points. So you mean 3 starters combined for 15 points? Anthony Edwards having 32 points? Anthony Edwards is trash because 3 of his teammates on the starting lineup only had 15 points combined and they lost? Anthony Edwards is trash. Why didn't he score 50? Why didn't Brunson in game 1, instead of scoring 43 points, why didn't he score 50? Why in game 2 did Brunson, instead of scoring 36 points, score 45 points? His team wins every time, right? Trash. Neither Brunson or Anthony Edwards can help a team win a championship. Giannis can't help a team win a championship per your definition and narrative of Trae Young. Trash. A narrative is a story or account of events, true or fictional, told or written. That's a narrative. So why so many people continue to spit out a false narrative about Trae Young, even though they have evidence to say otherwise? They know it. They know it. They have actual evidence that all the things they continue to repeat from other people is all untrue. People who don't even watch Hawks games, never have watched a Hawks game, never been to a Hawks game, don't even know the names of the players, and they just say the same stuff over and over and over again, thinking that that makes it true. Well, it doesn't. And I'm using Michael Jordan as an example to prove this. By the way, Brunson has been a New York Knicks since 2022. This is the first year in 25 years the Knicks have been in the Eastern Conference Finals, though, right? So what about those other 2 years? Brunson being on the team, Brunson being the best player in the East, the best point guard, clutch player of the year. Well, they were knocked out by the Heat in his first year as a Knick, then by the Pacers his second year, and maybe by the Pacers again this year. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But again, in game 3, he only had 23 points and 1 assist in that game that they did win. If it wasn't for Cat balling out of control and bailing them out, the Knicks would be down 3-0. Brunson is trash. Cat had 24 points, 15 boards, 6 of 18 from the floor. 20 points in the fourth quarter alone, Cat had to do. Otherwise, they would be down 0-3. Y'all can keep praising another player from another team if you want to as the best point guard in the East, but that don't show that to me. Brunson not only has Cat, he also has OG, champion. Hart, pretty good player. Bridges at shooting guard, pretty good player. They have an assortment of players that won 50 games this season. It's a pretty good team. Let's talk about Michael Jordan being trash now. All right. Let's get to the crux of this particular discussion. The year is 1984. Do y'all remember the 80s? Wonderful times. In 1984, Michael Jordan averaged 28 points a game. This is his rookie season. He won Rookie of the Year. However, his team was bounced out the first round of the playoffs. Just won 1 game. Remember the 5-game playoffs? He averaged 29 points a game in that playoff series. Doesn't matter. The team still lost. So right there, Michael Jordan is trash. He averaged 29 points in the playoffs. Team lost. Trash, right? 1985, Michael Jordan. Now remember, 85, he got hurt. So he didn't play a lot that regular season. He only averaged 22 points a game in that regular season. Okay? But he did return for the playoffs. And in those playoffs, he averaged 43 points a game. Didn't matter. Team was swept by the Boston Celtics. Michael Jordan is trash. Per your narrative of Trae Young, doesn't matter he averaged 43 points in the playoffs. He lost, right? Doesn't matter. He was stat padding. 1986, Michael Jordan averaged 37 points a game in the regular season. Okay? Stat padding again. In the playoffs, he averaged 35 points a game. Guess what, though? His team, again, got swept by the same team, the Boston Celtics. Swept. Swept. By the way, even though Trae Young has only played three times in the playoffs, his teams have never been swept out the playoffs before, at least not yet. Michael Jordan happened twice. Michael Jordan, best player on the planet, swept out the playoffs. Swept. Michael Jordan is trash. From 1984 to 1987, the Bulls never made it past the second round. Sounds like the Hawks from back in the day, too, huh? Dominique Wilkins teams. 8 of 12 seasons, made the playoffs, couldn't get past the second round. Sounds familiar. Michael Jordan is trash. 1988, they did make it to the conference finals. They got knocked out 4-2 by the Pistons. 1989, they make the conference finals again. This time they lose in 7 games to the Pistons. Then in 1990, they make it all the way to the finals, and you know how things panned out after that. It took Michael Jordan 7 years to get to the finals and win it. Best player on the planet. The best player, no contention, can't be argued, but it took him 7 seasons to get there. So Michael Jordan is trash, right? Because everything up until then didn't matter. Couldn't get past the second round, couldn't get out the conference finals. Everything before that, MVP, scoring titles, everything up till then, doesn't mean nothing to his career. That's an interesting concept. But you know what, though? Who was on the Bulls roster in 1984? Do y'all know? It's very interesting when you look it up. Here are some of the players that was on that team. Quentin Daly, Chris Engler, Sidney Green, Dave Greenwood, Rod Higgins, Steve Johnson, Caldwell Jones, Charles Jones, Michael Jordan, Wes Matthews, Jawan Oldham, Enos Watley, and the big O Orlando Woolridge. Now, out of that group, Orlando averaged 22 points a game, and Daly averaged 16 points a game. Only one other Bull averaged double figures, and that was 10 points. That was Steve Johnson. Kevin Lowry was the coach. They had a 38-44 record. 1985, Michael Jordan played 18 regular season games. So guess what? That record wasn't going to be good. They were 30-52. But they did add some names, though, to that roster from 84 to 85. Charles Oakley is one of them. John Paxson is another one. And they got the end of his career, George the Iceman Gervin, on that team. Jordan comes back for the playoffs, as I mentioned before. 43 points a game in the playoffs, but again, they got swept by the Celtics. 1986, Doug Collins becomes the coach. Now, one of the things that you know that I talk about when I do game reviews, the 5 things that makes a team win on a regular basis. You have an owner that wants to win and does what's necessary to win. You have management that makes the right decisions over a period of time, not just one and done. You have a good to great coach. You have good to great players, and you're healthy. In this particular case, they changed coaches, and there were some changes. Doug Collins becomes the coach. Team goes 40-42. They also included a couple of new names. Adele Threet was on that team. Pete Myers was on that team. In the regular season, Oakley averaged 20 points. Actually, in the playoffs, Oakley averaged 20 points a game in the playoffs. That was a good move getting Oakley then, huh? But the only other player that averaged double figures in the playoffs was 10 points by Gene Banks. Have you ever heard of Gene Banks? Again, Jordan averaged 35 points in the playoffs, but again, they were swept out of the playoffs by the Boston Celtics. Remember, Jordan never beat Bird in the playoffs. Don't forget about that. Trash, right? Michael Jordan is trash. 1987. Got some new players again. Horace Grant, Sam Vincent, Scottie Pippen. Team wins 50 games. That's a 10-game jump right there. Team wins its first playoff series with Jordan against the Cavaliers. But second round, knocked out by the Pistons. MJ averaged 36 points in the playoffs after averaging 35 points in the regular season, winning MVP. But none of that matters, though. Trash. Because he got knocked out the playoffs. Stat pattern. 1988. Got some new players. Bill Cartwright, Craig Harges, Will Perdue. Team wins 47 games. Team makes it to its first conference finals for the first time. Now, think about this. It took Michael Jordan, the best player on the planet, 5 years to make it to a conference finals. 5. Uno, dos, tres, cinco, right? Cuatro, cinco. He averaged 34 points in the playoffs. The Pistons beat the Bulls in 6 games. Now, again, Trae Young is trash. He got to the conference finals in his 3rd season. People forget this for some reason. Michael Jordan, it took him 5 seasons to get there. He's also trash. Trash. 1989, another coaching change takes effect. Phil Jackson becomes the head coach. And you know some of the other coaches that were on that bench with him. Triangle offense and the whole 9 and all that kind of good stuff, right? Team wins 55 games. They go from 47 to 55. New players included B.J. Armstrong and Stacey King. Jordan averaged 36 points a game in the playoffs. This time going to the conference finals again, and this time losing to the Pistons in 7 games. The year before, lost to them in 6. This time lost to them in 7, but still lost. But this time also, Scottie Pippen is now averaging 19 points a game now. 1990, the team wins 61 games. New players include Cliff Livingston and Scott Williams. Michael Jordan wins another MVP. He averaged 31 points in the playoffs, 8 assists, by the way, which led the team. Pippen is averaging 21 points a game in the playoffs. Horace Grant averaging 13 points a game in the playoffs. The Bulls get by the Pistons finally. They face the Lakers, and they win their first NBA title. So, is Michael Jordan trash? Stat pattern, numbers, MVP, scoring titles, slam dunk championships. None of that mattered up until they won a championship, or does all of it matter cumulatively? Because without statistics, there is no game of basketball. Which is it? Because if you apply your narrative about Trae Young, you got to apply it for every player, ever, including Michael Jordan. Trash. But we know that's not true. Just like it's not true of Dominique Wilkins and his 12 seasons in Atlanta. His 12 seasons in Atlanta meant something. It wasn't a waste of his career. He wasn't a stat pattern. He's a Hall of Fame player. So why do people choose to disrespect Trae and Trae alone? Trae Young and Trae Young alone, and not all the other Hawks in Hawks history who also haven't won a championship, haven't been to a conference finals? What about them? I've done entire episodes breaking down the Hawks 80s and 90s teams with Dominique Wilkins there. Who's on the roster, yearly averages, playoff averages, just like I just did with the Bulls just now. Go and take a look at that on previous episodes of Around the ATL. Wherever you're watching this from, subscribe to the IMTN Worldwide Radio YouTube channel. Scrolling right there. Just click on it. Or, you know what to do. Now, in Trae Young's third NBA season, he did make the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay? Again, that's 2 seasons before Michael Jordan did, right? Something Dominique Wilkins did not do, right? But Trae is trash for accomplishing that. Like, that don't matter to some people. There are people out there who all but say, and some of them actually say it, that didn't even really happen. They just like, whoop, like, Men in Black, they hit the flashy thingy, whoop, that didn't even happen. The Eastern Conference finals. That run to the finals didn't even happen. The Hawks were 2 wins away from getting to the NBA finals. None of that happened because Trae Young was on the team. That's what you got some people doing. Okay. I got something for you again, though, obviously. Well, remember, the Hawks only have 2 conference finals appearances since the year 1969. How is Trae the problem? And not the organization. The Atlanta Hawks organization, they have not found it within themselves to compete with all the other teams in the league since the 60s? That's just weird, don't you think? But hey, guess what, though? Let me remind you of some of the players, because remember, Trae Young's first 2 seasons, y'all remember that roster? 2018, 2019 rosters? Y'all remember the Trash Brothers? Y'all remember that? I don't think some of you remember those times. Trae Young in his rookie season gave the team 19 points and 8 assists right off the rip. That's better than any Hawks point guard in the last 40 years of Hawks basketball. That includes Mookie, Doc, Jeff, Dennis, Captain Kirk, Bibby, Speedy, Claxton, everybody. We're still probably paying Speedy Claxton under the table somehow. I know we are. But none of those players are trash, just Trae Young. 2018, John Collins was averaging 19 points a game. Taurean Prince, the veteran, averaging 13. Red Mamba, the rookie. Kevin Huerter, Red Mamba, 9.7. Dedmon was giving you 10. Bays, 11. Bembry, 8. Alex Lynn, 11. Jeremy Lin, 10. And Vince Carter, Hall of Famer, 7 points a game. The team scored 113 points a game. That's not that bad. Problem was we were giving up 119 points a game. Imagine this. I'm skipping right here. You know how many points the Hawks gave up this year? Just the 2024 season? 119 points a game. Why can't we have a defensive coach on our bench? Doesn't have to be the head coach, but somebody who knows defense, somebody who can coach defense, because we haven't had it all these years. Nobody cares about it. It's not important. It hasn't been important since 2018, at least. But anyway, you know, Trae didn't have the worst plus or minus on that team either. That would have been Bazemore and Prince. There was never any adjustments on defense during games. We would just watch the same stuff happen over and over again, no adjustment. Coaching staff didn't care. Our record was 29-53 in 2018. But we could have made the playoffs, and I will stand on that till this day. We can play a little bit of defense. We made the playoffs Trae Young's first year, which he wanted to do. He said that in Summer League that he wanted to be in the playoffs. 2019 season, for some reason, we brought in Evan Turner, Alan Crabb, and Chandler Parsons. For some reason. It was strange. They were supposed to make the team better. Now, Jabari Parker played well, 15 a game. Cam, 10 a game. Hunter, first season, 12. Not bad, I guess. Teague, 7-4 off the bench. Trae gave 29-9 second season. John Collins, 21-10. Pretty good. But again, team gave up 119 points a game on defense for the second straight year. Team went 20-47. Again, though, scoring wasn't the problem. We just couldn't stop nobody. And again, just to throw it in here, Trae Young didn't have the worst plus minus on the team. This time it was Red Mamba, Cam, Bembry, Damian Jones, Teague, and Brandon Goodwin who had the worst plus minus on the team in 2019. Now, 2020, for the first time in a while, the Atlanta Hawks make some moves to possibly compete. Nothing is guaranteed, but it had to be better than the previous 2 seasons. They got who? Clint. They got Gallo, right? They got Lou Will. Went and got Solo, right? Drafted Okongwu. Had Rondo on the team, Tony Snell. Nice little group of players, right? So that team went 41-41 in the regular season. Trae had 25-9, John 17-7, Clint 15-14. Fortunately, Clint was never the same after that season. All of his numbers, shoot. Red Mamba 12 again. Hunter went up to 15, Bogey 16. Oh yeah, that's right. We had Bogey as well. Cam 11 and Gallo 13, Lou Will 11 a game. Team averaged 113 points a game. Guess what? For the first time, we gave up less points than we were scoring. We only gave up 111 points a game that season. Ain't that something? That's the only time it's happened, though. Sometimes if you ain't going to coach it, you got to change some of the players out. And look what happened. Anyway, like I said, Okongwu, Rondo, and Tony Snell were some of the other players. Now, I'm going to talk about that playoff run a little bit later. But again, if you still feel Trae is trash, nobody else is trash. I'm going to talk about this. Is Trae Young averaging 12 points and 4 assists a game? Because if he was, you would have an argument. There'd be no reason to pay someone the immense amount of money that Trae does earn if he was only scoring 12 points a game and only giving you 4 assists, 3 or 4 assists a game, giving you Mike Bibby numbers. If he was giving you Mike Bibby numbers, you would have an argument that Trae Young is trash. I would agree with you. That's trash. For what we did to get Trae, where he was in the draft, actually, on his own accord, where he was in the draft. After Trae Young, well, before I get to there, Trae Young is not averaging 12 points and 4 assists a game. Jeff Teague's best season was 15.9 points and 7 assists a game. That was 2014. He joined his teammates as an all-star. His career as an Atlanta Hawk, though, is 11.9 points and 5.1 assists a game. That's not trash per your narrative. Jeff Teague didn't win no championship. He got swept out the Eastern Conference Finals, and then his team was swept out the playoffs the next year by the same team. Jeff Teague, career Hawk, 11.9 points and 5.1 assists a game. That's better than what Trae is doing. Doc Rivers' best season, 1987, 14 points, 9 assists. Bibby's best season, 14.9 points, 5 assists. Dennis's best season, 19 and 6. Captain Kurt Heinrich, 8 points, 3 assists. Speedy Claxton, 5 points, 4 assists. Jason Terry, 19 and 6. After Trae Young's rookie season of 19 points and 8 assists, this is what he did. 29 and 9, 25 and 9, 28 and 9.7, 26 and 10, 25 and 10.8, 24 and 11.6. He's almost at 12 assists a game. Despite the roster, despite not having a center that can finish at the rim at 68, 70% a game or hit a consistent 3. One or the other, or both, preferably. Not having a regular shooter on the floor at all times. He's doing this despite all that. But Trae is trash, though. Trae Young is a career 25 and 10 player, 9.8, you want to be specific. 25 and 10 player. You know how many NBA point guards in history can say that? None. 2 can be close, though. Oscar Robertson's 25 and 9.5, and James Harden is 29 and 9.2. And that's the list. But Trae is trash. Because if Trae is trash, Oscar Robertson is trash, and James Harden is trash. And we know that's not true. It's just not. It's also not Magic Johnson who didn't do it. Jason Kidd didn't come close to doing that. Chris Paul didn't come close to doing that. Steve Nash definitely didn't come close to doing that. Luka or anybody else. It's Trae Young and Trae Young alone. This is NBA history. Has Trae Young missed 157 plus games? No. Hunter has, though. Has he never been an all-star? Never been an all-NBA player? We know he should have been all-NBA this year. We know that. Has he never led the league in any category? No, that's not true. Trae Young for 3 of the last 4 seasons has led the league in total assists. He would have led the league 4 years in a row if he hadn't gotten hurt. And he still finished 8th, by the way. He led the NBA in assists per game this year. He led the NBA in points generated by assists this year. He was second in the NBA only to the Joker in total points generated. How is that bad, by the way? He also was a league leader in clutch points and clutch assists. And for the second year in a row, unfortunately, led the league in potential assists at 21 a game. He's never been less than 6th in the NBA in that category. That goes to show you how many people are missing shots on a nightly basis. The Atlanta Hawks leave 25 to 40 points a game from missed shots generated from Trae Young. That's ridiculous. And they don't got nothing to do with Trae. You just didn't hit your shot. No, I'm not expecting you to hit every shot, but you got to hit more than that. We've lost 24 games again this season by 10 points or less, basically because of missed shots, missed dunks, missed layups, floaters, 2-pointers, and threes. Wide open, too. Generated from Trae Young. Trae Young got you the shot. He passes it to you, and you miss it continually. That's what a potential assist is. 21 a game? We're leaving 40 points on the board? I've shown y'all some of those games. Most recently, April 2nd's Dallas game with Anthony Davis. We couldn't stop him. But it wouldn't have mattered if we had hit half of our shots. We couldn't do that. Anyway. So where am I at? Has Trae Young never led his team in any category in team history? That's not true. Has he never been a player that has broken the NBA record? That's not true. So now NBA records only matter when Trae Young is not involved, but if Trae Young is involved, it's trash and it don't matter in NBA history. How do you regulate that with yourself and say that out loud and post it and say it on the microphone and stuff? How do you do? I don't understand how people do that. Because automatically you're saying that everybody that Trae is ahead of or about to pass or right next to, all of them are trash. Their careers can't mean anything. Trae Young was the first player in NBA history to record 45-point, 10-assist game in the conference finals. It was 48-11, though, to be exact. He's the first Atlanta Hawks player to score 20 points and 10 assists in 3 straight playoff games. Most points in the conference finals debut, Trae Young. Youngest player to record 40 points and 10 assists in the conference finals game. The only Hawks player other than Doc Rivers to record a double-double in points and assists in a Game 7 in the playoffs. Longest streak in NBA history of 20 points and at least 7 assists with 11 games in a row. Youngest player to drop at least 20 points and 15 assists in a playoff game. He had 35 and 15 to be exact. That's trash? First player since Tim Hardaway in 1991 to have at least 25 points and 18 assists in a playoff game. He joined Michael Jordan, who's trash, as the only 2 players in NBA history to score 30 points in 3 straight road playoff games against the New York Knicks. Michael Jordan and Trae Young. That's it. That's it. And they're still saying F Trae Young. Every game, right? Terrible. 5th player in NBA history to record at least 15 career 40-point games at age 22 or younger. Passed Michael Jordan for 2nd with the most 30-point, 10-assist games by a rookie in NBA history. First rookie since Michael Jordan to put up 45 points and 15 assists regular season. Trae Young is the Atlanta Hawks all-time leader in assists with 4,748, 3-pointers, 1,277. He is 2nd in double-doubles with 256. He is 6th in total points. By the way, if he plays at least 7 more seasons and he averages at least 1,900 points, give or take, he will become the Hawks' all-time leading scorer over Dominique Wilkins. Just to let you know, Trae Young scored 1,575 points in 2020, 2,128 points in 2021, 1,898 points in 2022, 1,350 points in 2023. He was hurt. 1,841 points in 2024. So he has a great shot of doing that, actually. He averages 24, 25 points a game. He'll be the Hawks' all-time leading scorer. And guess what? He's going to be in the all-time leading scorer category, depending on how long he decides to play. Trae Young is 3rd in NBA history in 30-point, 10-assist games. There's only a couple of people ahead of him right now that happen to be still active somehow. He's 14 games away from passing LeBron James, who has 22 years in the NBA. He's only 14 games away from passing LeBron. He could do that next year, possibly. He's 15 games away from tying James Harden who's played 16 years in the NBA. Trae has only played 7 full seasons, guys, and one of them he was hurt. The players below Trae Young, who must also be trash, Luka, Westbrook, Magic, Joker. All those players are trash because you say Trae Young is trash. Michael Jordan is trash too. Don't forget that. Trae Young is 7th in NBA history in 20-point, 10-assist games. He is 16 games away from passing the Pistons' Isaiah Thomas, 36 games away from passing Chris Paul. That all could happen this coming season. His 8th in the NBA. Players below Trae Young, John Stockton, Steve Nash, Joker again, Luka again, Jason Kidd, Curry. All of them are trash because Trae Young is about to has passed these players. They all got to be trash, right? Their accomplishments mean nothing if Trae's accomplishments don't mean nothing in NBA history. We're talking NBA history. We're past Hawks history now. We're talking NBA historical history. Trae Young is 4th all time in the playoffs in assists per game. He's 4th. Since they started keeping up this particular stat in 2013, Trae Young leads the NBA in playoff points per game in the 4th quarter. The players on that list, Ja Morant, Mitchell, Curry, Brunson, LeBron, Murray, Thomas, Chris Paul, Ant-Man. That's with a minimum of 20 playoff games played. Trae has played 25 so far. Why can't we get Trae in more playoff games so he can be that? Because that tells you how clutch he is. He leads the NBA in the playoffs in the 4th quarter. We can't get him in enough playoff games for that to matter. But Trae is trash because the team won't do better in getting players around Trae Young, like the Chicago Bulls did for Michael Jordan, for Michael Jeffrey Jordan. They got him better players that fit around what they were doing and around him. And the team continually got better year after year. I just showed you all that. That's not made up. You can go look at it yourself. I just did it for you. Anyway. Oh, like Brunson, by the way. That's another good example of the Knicks. Remember, since 2020 season, the Knicks completely rehauled their whole entire roster. That roster, after the Hawks destroyed them and Trae Young taking his bow, the Knicks completely just blew up that roster. Think about that. But anyway. Trae Young is one of 2 NBA players in history to lead the league in both points and assists. The other one is Tiny Archibald. Trae Young is 3rd all time in the history of the NBA in assists per game. Only 2 players are ahead of him, Magic and John Stockton. That's the list. Assists per game. There's only 2 people ahead of Trae Young, Magic and Stockton. That's the list. Everybody else is below Trae Young now. Trae has played 7 years to do that. Trae Young is 1st in active players with assists per game. He leads CP3, Luka, Westbrook, everybody. Here are some of the players he has passed in total assists in NBA history so far in the last season. Fortunately, I was able to update this. Manu Ginobili, Kenny Smith, Bill Russell, T-Mac, Kyrie Irving, Charles Barkley. Kyrie is still playing, by the way. Tim Duncan, Kurt Heinrich, Captain Kurt, Grant Hill, Spud Webb, Ray Allen, Hal Greer, DeRozan, still playing, Jeff Teague, Jason Williams, Joe Dumars, Draymond Green, still playing, Wilt Chamberlain, Kevin Durant, still playing, Paul Pierce. In year 8, here are the players he's going to pass. Vince Carter. Joker. If Joker retired today, he's going to pass Joker in all-time assists. He technically still could pass Joker. Yeah, Joker has an off year in assists, but he'll be right behind Joker this whole upcoming season. In total assists all time, playing less years than the Joker. Think about that. Mark Price, Doc Rivers. How many Atlanta Hawks has Trae Young already? Anyway. Nate McMillan, Joe Johnson, Walt Frazier, Kenny Anderson, Jason Terry, Kevin Garnett, Mike Bibby, Allen Iverson, Chauncey Billups, Michael Jordan again. So I'm past him, year 8. He has an outside chance of passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Larry Bird. Now, of all those players, are any of them trash to y'all? Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, trash. So let's talk about the playoffs now. Remember, the 2020 season, the Hawks added some players. They ended up 41-31, and they qualified for the NBA playoffs, right? So for these playoffs, Trae Young averaged 28.8 points and 9.5 assists. So basically 29 and 10 right off the jump. Remember, for his career, he averages 26 points and 9 assists in the playoffs. Not a lot of point guards that have done that in their careers. It's not a lot of players who can say they've done that in their careers. Bogey averaged 14, John 14, Clint 10, 11, Kevin 11, Hunter, I'll give him 11, 10.8, Gallo 12.8, Cam 12.8. But remember, Hunter doesn't play after the Knicks series. But this is what everybody averaged for that playoff run. Okay. The Knicks. Game 1, Trae Young, 32 points, 10 assists. Game 2, 30.7 assists. Game 3, 21 points, 14 assists. Game 4, 27 points, 9 assists. Game 5, 36 points, 9 assists. He took a bow. That's trash. Trae Young did all of that, and it didn't mean anything to anybody. Now, here's what everybody else contributed to that Knicks series. Kevin Huerter, 8 points, 10 points, 10 points, 11 points, 8 points. Hunter, 5 points, 18 points, 11 points, 5 points, again, 15 points. That was Hunter. Clint, 9 points, 13 boards. Game 2, 4 points, 12 boards. Game 3, 13 and 12. Game 4, 10 and 15. And Game 5, 14 and 15. Not too bad. John Collins, 12 and 7. Game 2, he didn't score, but he played 15 minutes. Game 3, 14 and 6. Game 4, 22 and 8. Game 5, 13 and 7. Bogey, 18 in game 1. Game 2, 18. Game 3, 15. Game 4, 12. Also had 6 assists and 8 boards. In game 5, he had 9 points. Bogey had 9 points in game 5. John, 13. Clint, 14. Hunter, 15. Kevin, 8. Trae, 36. But Trae is trash, though. First round is over. Philly, who we had no business having a chance to win against, right? For all the narratives, air quotes, right? The Hawks win game 1, lost game 2, lost game 3, win game 4 and 5, lost game 6, and they win game 7. We all know the history there, right? So Trae, game 1 has 35 points and 10 assists. Game 2, 21 points, 11 assists. Game 3, 28 points, 8 assists. Game 4, 25 and 18 assists. Who is he passing the ball to? I don't know. Game 5, 39.7 assists. Game 6, 34 points, 12 assists. And Game 7, 21 points, 10 assists. Now, we know this is a series where we got Game 7 Kevin, but what else did he do in that series? Kevin in game 1, 15 on great shooting. Second game, 20 points. Third game, 3 points. Fourth game, 10 points. Fifth game, 0 points. Game 6, 17. And of course, game 7, Kevin, 27. Remember, Hunter wasn't available, so he's gone. John, 21 points. Game 1. Game 2, 8 points, 10 boards. Game 3, 23 and 7. Game 4, 14 and 12. Game 5, 19 and 11. And game 6, 7 and 10. Game 7, 14 and 16 boards. Bogey, game 1, 21 points. Game 2, 14. Game 3, 19. Game 4, 22. Game 5, 6. Game 7, 4. My bad. Game 5, he had 6 points. Game 6, he had 7 points. And then game 7, he had 4 points. So Bogey at the first half of that did pretty good. But then the last 3 games, yeah, Bogey was kind of trash. Okay. Just being real, right? Clint, 11 and 10, 10 and 8, 8 and 16, 12 and 13, 6 and 8, 14 and 11, and 13 and 6. Not a lot of rebounds in that final game. Gallo, 9 points, 21, 17, 7, 16, 16, and 17. So Gallo helped out those last 3 games. Lou, game 5, had 15. That's all I'm going to talk about Lou in that second round. But we got past the second round. So now we went through the first round, we went through the second round. Trae Young is trash because he was helping his team get through these playoffs. Because without Trae Young doing what he did, we get eliminated against the Knicks. And definitely against Philly because you didn't have Hunter out there. You got players who didn't do that well at the end of the day. But here we are now against the Milwaukee Bucks. Again, this is Trae Young's first playoff series of games ever in life, his 3rd season in the NBA. Hawks win game 1, 116 to 113. Lose game 2, 125 to 91. That was a blowout. Lose game 3, 113 to 102. Win game 4 without Trae. Did you hear me say that? 110 to 88. Lose game 5 by a score of 123 to 112. And game 6 by a score of 118 to 107. So we know what happened in this series. Trae goes down. But before that, Trae had 48 and 11. Then he had 15 and 9. Then 35 and 4. He missed games 4 and 5. He came back, played hurt, 14 and 9. To this day, I'm going to continue to say, if we had gotten anything out of somebody else, we still beat Milwaukee anyway. Why do I say that? Because here's what happened. Y'all want to say Trae Young is trash, but y'all know he got hurt. Like to try to avoid that fact of history is stupid to me, but whatever. Kevin had 13 in game 1. Game 2, he had 8. Game 3, 11. Game 4, 15 points on 1 of 7 from 3. Game 5, he had 8. 3 of 12 from the floor. Game 6, he had 6 points. We needed more from Kevin. We lost game 6, 118 to 107. John, game 1, 23 and 15. Game 2, 11 and 8. Game 3, 13 and 8. Bogey, 4 points in game 1. Game 2, 8 points. Game 3, 8 points. Clint, game 1, 12 and 19. That helped us win that game 1. But then game 2, 2 points, 8 boards. Game 3, 8 points, 11 boards. Gallo, game 1, 9 points. Game 2, 12 points. Game 3, he had 18. We needed more. We just didn't have it. Game 4, after nobody did anything in game 3, they did step up in game 4, and they won that game. So here's a question to everybody. Did the Hawks miss shots on purpose in game 3? Trae had 35. We should have won game 3. Just saying. Nobody else on the team had more than 13 points other than Gallo's 18. Game 4, without Trae, Kevin had 15, Lou had 21, Bogey had 20. After having 4 points, 8 points, and 8 points, we needed more from Bogey too. John had 4 points. Clint had 15 points. Cam had 12. Gallo had 10. Hawks win that game 110 to 88. If we had a similar game in game 5, we win game 5 possibly. Bogey had 28. Kevin had 8. Lou had 17. John had 19 and 8, but Clint had 6 and 8. Gallo has 19. We lost that game 123-112 without Trae. Game 6, Trae returns, but it's obvious he ain't right. He had 14 and 9. Bogey had 20. Clint had 13 and 11. Kevin had 5 points. 5. Clint had 14 and 9. Cam had his best game ever in the playoffs, 21, and Gallo had 13. So after all of that, we went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Did the Hawks do anything to say, hey, let's get back to the Eastern Conference Finals and get to the finals? Did we do anything? What did we do, though? We brought in Gorgie Jang, TLC, Lance Stevenson, Kevin Knox. That's what we did. We did draft Jalen Johnson, but we weren't going to ever play him. And we drafted Sharif Cooper. TLC averaged 1.5 points in the playoffs, y'all. Lance didn't play. So in this Miami series, which is our second playoff series with Trae Young, we all know that series and how it went and why it went that way. Bogey, John, Gallo, not full strength. John shouldn't even been playing. Clint's hurt. So you had four of your main people not really able to play and contribute to your team. Ooh, excuse me. Hawks had four players score double digits. Hunter had 14, Gallo 17, Collins with 10, and Kevin Knox with 10. Kevin had 8, Bogey had 6. Miami was not letting Trae win that game. He was 1 for 12 from the floor. He had 8 points. And again, Clint didn't play that first game. Game 2, Trae had 25 and 7. They were still all over him, but he still had 25 and 7. Kevin had 9. Gallo had 2. John had 13. Bogey did have 29. Hunter had 16. Clint again didn't play. Hawks played 8 people in that game. Game 3, Trae had 24 and 8. Still all over him. Hunter had 17. Kevin had 13. Gallo 11. John 6. Bogey had 18. Hunter had 9 points. Clint didn't play again. DeLon Wright had 13 points. The Hawks win that game. But game 4, Trae had 9 points and 5 assists. Hunter had 24, but Kevin Huerter had 4 points. Again, if we had gotten anything out of Kevin, we still might have beat the Heat in that series. Don't know what would have happened otherwise, but we would have beat the Heat in the first round. John had 11, Clint had 2. Knox had 12, Bogey had 4. So if our 2 shooting guards had a better game than 4 and 4, we'd win game 4, possibly. Game 5, Trae had 11 and 6. He had 8 rebounds. Hunter had his best game as a pro, basically, 35 points, 11 boards, 3 steals. Kevin had 12. John had 7. Clint had 2. Gallo had 12. Hawks lost that game by 3 points. They are eliminated. We just needed something. But since we didn't do anything in the offseason, that's all we had. So after that, okay, well, what are we going to do the next season to try to get better? Well, yes, we did bring in DJ, and that looked like it could be a possible move of Trae and John Collins. But, you know, they also brought in Frank the Tank, and they brought Bruno back, and they brought in Vitt, and they brought in Garrison, who doesn't play no defense, and the Holiday brothers, and Trent. We drafted AJ. We drafted Tyrese. We brought in Culver. We brought in Sadiq Bey. So that Boston playoff series, right? Y'all remember that Boston playoff series? Some of you don't. Remember, this is our 3rd straight playoffs, too, by the way. We should be in the playoffs every year, but we're not for some reason. Remember to make sure you subscribe to the IMT and Worldwide Radio YouTube channel. That Boston playoff series was very interesting. Boston won game 1, 112-99. Game 2, 119-106. The Hawks win game 3, 130-122. Game 4, Boston wins 129-121. That's 8 points, by the way, guys. Game 5, the Hawks win 119-117. Then game 6, Hawks lose by 8 points, 128-120. Again, to this day, the Hawks should have beat the Boston Celtics in that first round. Game 1, Trae had 16 points, 8 assists. Game 2, 24 and 6. Game 3, 32 and 9. Game 4, 35 and 15. Game 5, 38 and 13. Game 6, 30 and 10. Also, he's getting 2 steals a game through most of that series. So all we needed was a little bit, and we could not get it. Now, DJ did do his job, except for the game he didn't get to play in. DJ had 24 in game 1. Hunter had 11 points, and he also wasn't stopping nobody on defense. That's just pure, plain and simple. I've shown you game reviews. It's disgusting because we needed him to be our best defender, and he just simply wasn't. He never has been. I've done previous shows. I'll post those later, but we needed him to slow somebody down, and he couldn't do it because Tatum and Brown was averaging 29 points a game in that series. We just had to come down a little bit, and we couldn't get it. Collins Collins had 12 in that game. Clint 12. Bogey had 9. We lost 112-99. Game 2, DJ 29 points. Hunter, he did have 18. John only had 5, and Clint only had 4. Bogey had 18. We lose 119-106. I told you what Trae has done already. Game 3, DJ again doing his job. 25. Hunter only 11. Clint only 10. John only 8. Bogey 15, Bey had 15, JJ had 10. They let him play a little bit. We win 130-122. Game 4, DJ again doing his end, 23 points. Hunter had his best game with 27. Clint had 10, John 5, Bay 5, Bogey 8. We lost 129 to 121. Both Tatum and Brown, again, had 31 points in this game. Who was responsible for guarding those two players? Who was responsible for guarding Brown? It wasn't Trae. Who was responsible for guarding Tatum? It wasn't Trae, but we blame Trae and say Trae Young is trash when in game 4, he had 35 and 15. He had 35 and 15, but Trae Young is the reason they lost that game. Sorry, that's just not true. Your narrative doesn't float. Game 5, of course, DJ was suspended. Hunter had 13 points, Bogey 18, John 22, Clint had 4. They had 12. Trae hits the game winner. We win 119 to 117. Of course, game 6, DJ had 14. Hunter had 20. John 16, Clint 10, Bogey 12. We lose that game by 9 points. Remember, game 6, Trae had 30 and 10. We should have beat the Boston Celtics. So again, here we go. The next season, let's get to the playoffs again. Let's make sure we get to the playoffs again. What did we do? We drafted Kobe, who hasn't played in 2 seasons now. We drafted Seth. He's not here. We drafted Mo G. He's almost there, I guess, at this point. We got Wesley Matthews and Patty Mills. We weren't going to play them at all. And that was it. Those were the moves. Of course, we know the 2023 season, we had a lot of injuries. Trae missed 28 games. Hunter missed 25. Jalen missed 26. Okongwu, 27. Bay, 19. Hawks lost the last 7 games of the season, 2023. I showed y'all each and every single one of those games, including the play-in game against Chicago. Go watch that. I also did the Pistons game, which is the last game that the Hawks won in 2023. I did that game because Malachi Flynn scored 50 points. Trae Young was not on the floor, and no one can explain to me how Malachi Flynn almost beat the Hawks single-handedly in Atlanta. That was in State Farm Arena. Bob Rathman almost had a heart attack because Malachi Flynn couldn't be stopped, and none of y'all can explain why. But you say Trae Young is trash, and Trae Young wasn't even playing. Go watch those last 7 games that I reviewed on Around the ATL. That page right there on YouTube. Go watch and see who was giving up all those points. But anyway, 2024 should have been a turnaround year, though, because, again, they made some moves to fix some of the issues from the previous few seasons, right? I've talked about that in another episode. There was a time in 2024 the Hawks were 5th in the conference. They almost won the in-season tournament. And even after JJ was gone, and even despite the trades and the turmoil with all that, getting used to new players, the Hawks still had a chance to clinch 6th and 7th spot. They ended up as the 8th seed, right? And we know how the Miami play-in game went. I showed you the overtime period, okay? I showed you how those 17 points were scored. And actually, just in case you didn't watch that, let's watch that right now, just in case you missed it, okay? So let's go to the first shot given up in overtime. Now, let me just give you context again. It should never have went to overtime in the first place, okay? So I'm going to just go ahead and get that out there, all right? The reason it had to get to overtime, Trae Young did what he did in the 4th quarter to get them to overtime. But it should never have gotten to that point. We should have been able to win the game outright. But we just didn't have enough. Again, okay? But we get to overtime. The Hawks only scored 8 points in overtime. One of those players who scored was Trae Young, and the other one was Okongwu. Right? But the Hawks gave up 17 points in overtime. And everybody goes to that 3-pointer that Trae gives up, and it's an ugly 3-pointer that he gives up. Yes, indeed. But that was the 17th point, though. What about the other 14? Let's watch.
Mitchell using the Adebayo screen. Kicks it out. Highsmith for a hero. Bottom. It's a 3.
So explain to me, Trae Young's supposed to play 2 people? Because he was on Mitchell, not Tyler Hero. Dyson was on Tyler Hero, and he left Tyler Hero, and Tyler Hero hits a wide open 3. That's 3 points right there, right? Here's the second shot of that overtime.
Here's Wiggins, picked up by Okongwu. 8 to shoot. Wiggins wants to dance. The floater is good. Miami pulling away from Atlanta.
So explain how Trae Young was involved in that play, and it was his fault that Okongwu gave up a one-on-one to Wiggins. Explain it. But that's another 2 points given up. Here's the third shot in overtime by Miami.
To the big Okongwu. 7 to shoot. Hero. Mitchell. Again! Davion Mitchell is lethal.
Dyson Daniels had Mitchell in that case. Why was Dyson playing off of Mitchell that far away? I'm not really sure. But all Hero had to do is do a little da-da-da, pass it to Mitchell. You want to see it again? Watch this.
To the big Okongwu. 7 to shoot. Hero. Mitchell. Again! Davion Mitchell is lethal.
Trae Young didn't give up that three. Here's another shot.
Here's Wiggins, picked up by Okongwu. 8 to shoot. Wiggins wants to dance. The floater is good. Miami pulling away from Atlanta.
My bad, I already showed that. Here's the fifth shot of overtime.
So many momentum changes.
117 to 114. Miami. Hero. On target. Both teams making big-time shots.
All Dyson had to do was stay with his man. And that three, at least by Hero, doesn't go in. Watch again. Watch where Dyson is at. And watch where Hero is at.
So many momentum changes.
117 to 114. Miami. Hero. On target. Both teams making big-time shots.
You can't afford to gamble with someone like Tyler Hero on the floor. You don't need a scouting report. He's hit a three already. You see what I'm saying? You stay with your, whatever happens behind you don't matter. You got to stay with your man. And Dyson, of all people, left his man again. He gave up 3 threes in that overtime, people. Wasn't Trae Young. But here's the shot that Trae Young does give up. And it's just 3 points that he gives up. And it's the last shot that the Miami Heat hit. So again, what about the other 14 points? Why don't you attribute any accountability to the other 14 points before you get to this one?
To crush the Hawks. Hero ball fake. Shot clock winding down. Mitchell, jumper. Oh, yeah!
That was bad. It was egregious. It made no sense. But did you see the score as well? That three didn't win the game for the Miami Heat. That game was already won. They had scored 14 points in overtime before Trae gave up that three. The 3 points he did give up. But your narrative is Trae gave up all 17 points, and they're doing this and doing that, and it was Trae's fault. That's just not true. I just showed it to you. There's no way you can formalize an argument for that. Because the tape shows you what happened. But again, let's keep going. Now, as a reminder, like I said, I've talked about certain things a lot on Around the ATL over the last few years. So in the chat, I'm going to post, if I can, if it lets me, some of the past episodes of note. One of them is called Rosters Matter, which kind of goes into what I was doing with the Bulls roster. I've done it with the Atlanta Hawks roster before. For decades, I've done it. So you can check that out. I also did an episode called What's the Point? You can check that one out too. Okay, it's letting me do it. All right, great. I also did an episode called Journalistic Integrity. This goes into you just shouldn't say just anything and think people are supposed to believe it. You need to be able to back up what you're talking about. You need to be able to prove it. At a certain point, you should prove what you're talking about. It doesn't take that much work to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I did an episode about journalistic integrity. One of the reasons I did that particular episode was Summer League. That someone was saying, oh, Trae Young is not a leader. He ain't out there in Vegas with his guys when he's out there every single season, but not always day one. And the immediacy of day two, he's out there and he's taking Zach out to dinner and stuff like that and flying out to Oklahoma and all this. No one prints a retraction that Trae Young is not a leader. No one says, oh, my bad, I made a mistake. There's Trae Young right there sitting on the sidelines in Las Vegas watching his new guys play basketball. No one did that. I also did an episode called Accomplishments Matter, because they do. Again, if you say Trae Young is trash and his career doesn't mean anything, every other basketball player that's in the Hall of Fame, get them out of there. They don't have a championship, they're trash, right? Every Atlanta Hawk that you like is trash per lack of accomplishment, right? I wrote an article. Oh no, I can't play. I can't. You won't be able to read it right now, but I did talk about it. So there's an article I wrote about DJ, Trae, and John playing together. I did a really good breakdown. So there's that one. Got 2 episodes on Hunter and the fact that we could just never get him to be Defensive Player of the Year or first team all defense, second team all defense, or just a team leader on defense on his own team. I did a couple of episodes on him. I did several episodes on Okongwu and Clint. So here are those. These are in the chat, so anybody want to take a look at them, you can. And here's one episode in regards to Red Mamba, Kevin Huerter, who, again, I was backing until I couldn't anymore. He could never get more than 12 points a game ever. He's supposed to be this dynamic shooter. He's not, though, you know. And then he didn't play defense either. Now, right now, I'm actually in the midst of reviewing the last games of the 2024 season. I recently did April 2nd against the Dallas Mavericks, April 5th against the New York Knicks. I did a bonus game, which is the Luka 73-point game from a year ago. I'll be catching up with the rest of the series within the next couple of weeks or so. So look out for that. But I do plan on going back and doing some extra games. One of them is Detroit. Detroit basketball, right? Last November, we lost a game to the Detroit Pistons by 1 point, where Trae Young had 35 points and 13 assists. We didn't lose the game because of Trae Young. He also generated 61 points in that game. You can't blame the player that generated 61 points in a game for losing a 1 point game. You just can't do it. It don't look good. Okay? He also hit 50% from the 3. He hit 6 of them. JJ had 20 points and 9 rebounds. Dyson had 18 points, 7 steals. Wasn't his fault. Nance was 5 of 5 from the floor, 13 points, but we lost by 1 point. Why did we lose that game? Hawks only gave up 6 fast break points. We didn't lose because of that either. Pistons had 20 turnovers and we still couldn't win the game. But Trae is blamed for the loss somehow. Trae Young, nobody else's name is mentioned. And what have I always said? Live omission is still a lie. If you don't mention the other people's names, you're only blaming Trae Young. Zach was 2 of 7 in that game, 0 of 3 from 3 for 7 points. But Clint, Zach, at least we could say he's a rookie. But Clint ain't no rookie. He was 3 of 10 in that game and 1 of 4 from 3. And not Soul said, man, Clint, man, them 12 rebounds wasn't really enough, man. We needed a couple of those free throws, or we needed you to hit some of those layups, man. Because those were layups he was missing. Yeah, 7 points, 7 offensive rebounds. Make it make sense to me. Why that's not Clint, but you say it's Trae. I will be doing a review of that particular game. I did do a review of the Spurs game in December. We lost that game 133 to 126. Remember, the Hawks lost 24 games again this season by 10 points or less. Here is one of them. We lost by 7. Trae again was blamed. Here is a game I reviewed. Let me post this in here. I guess I need to type it. I didn't type it, so let me type. Let's see. How can I do this? Spurs game from last December review. Copy paste. Send that. Check that out. Trae Young had 23 points and 16 assists, but he's blamed for the loss somehow. He was responsible for 55 points in that game that he generated. Nance had 21 points Hunter had 27, JJ had 22, but Wemby, who averages 24 points a game, had 42 points. Who was guarding Wemby? Was it Trae Young? Because if it was Trae Young, then I guess you have a little bit of an argument. Although it doesn't make sense to put the smallest guy on the court against the tallest guy on the other team. Doesn't make basketball sense, but y'all do what y'all do. Who was guarding Vassell or Sohan? Why did it go to overtime? I showed y'all that. Watch that review, December game against the Spurs. Okay. Because the last two shots that the Spurs hit in regulation were not on Trae Young. I showed y'all that several times, just so that way you wouldn't miss it. And you still blame Trae Young somehow. I don't see how you can do that, but you do what you do. And again, who's guarding Wemby? Don't you think it would have been important to stay on Wemby? We didn't. Why is it so difficult for people that claim to be Hawks fans to attribute accountability to the players that actually hurt you on a game-to-game basis rather than putting it on the player that actually helps you stay in most of these games and win a lot of these games? Because the facts are there, but the tape is there. We have videotape. You see what I'm saying? It's called history. You can't change that part. And again, Trae Young isn't the player who gives up the most points each game. I've shown that through 2.5 seasons now of doing these full game reviews. Trae Young is not the one giving up the most points each game. He's just not. He's not. Okay. He isn't the worst defender on the team. I've shown y'all that. He's not. He isn't the player that does the least on offense each game. He's not. He isn't the least consistent player on his team. He's not, guys. He just isn't. By the way, who had the worst plus minus in 2024? It wasn't Trae. It was Kobe. Then Nance, then Bogey, then Garrison, then Zach, then Clint, then Hunter, then Vic. Trae Young's plus minus in 2024 season was 0.01. That's crazy. If you go back, and I don't know if I did it, I thought I did. Let me see. I must have missed it. But I actually went through the plus minus on some of the other teams. And Trae Young doesn't have the worst plus minus every year. He just doesn't. 2018 he did. 2019 he did. 2020 he surely didn't. But y'all make it out like Trae Young is the worst defender of all time, and he just is not. He just isn't. Sorry. He just isn't. So, and I just messed up where I was at. By the way, the Hawks did improve from the 2023 season to the 2024 season. They did go 40 and 42. That is progress. They won 25 plus games against teams 500 or better. That's progress. They almost won the division. That's progress. Remember, they were fifth in the East at one point. And this is despite giving up 119 points every doggone game. Okay. If the Hawks could just give up 110 points in a season, they'd be in the finals every year. Scoring has never been the issue. Stopping people have. And we just haven't had enough people to stop people. Remember, they were fifth in scoring this past year. Fifth. Like Dave Chappelle, fifth, right? The Hawks are the smallest team in the league still. They're playing a 6'8 center at center. I'm not mad at Okongwu. He can't help that. But he's too small for a lot of the bigs out there. He gets overpowered, not because he's weaker. He just don't got the wingspan. And sometimes it is just sheer size. Look at Anthony Davis. Okongwu gave up all those points to Anthony Davis, and we didn't double team him not one time, and Okongwu couldn't do nothing with him. We lost that game by 2 points. Because what? Pride? We don't want to double team Anthony Davis? We don't want to make somebody else hit a shot. This is the guy that's hurting us. He had 34 points in that game, 34 and I think 15 rebounds and 5 blocks. We said, we'll just let Okongwu just give up. This is like a relief pitcher in a blowout game. We'll just bring out one of our position players and we'll just let him give up 19 runs. That's what we did with Okongwu that night on April 2nd. I showed y'all that game. It didn't make any sense, not logical sense. Double team Anthony Davis. Make one of these other players hit a shot, people. And we chose not to do it. That was a choice. I don't get that. We need to get 2 7-footers at least, whether it be the draft or free agency. We need to be able to get somebody who can rebound, block shots, finish at the rim, set some shooting screens for our guys. We don't have that. We've never really had it all these years now, decades. The last legit center we had was Mutombo. Defensive player of the year, shot blocker who could also hit a 10-foot jumper. I posted that the other night on Twitter one time. We need somebody who can finish at the basket 68% or higher from 0 to 5 feet out. Clint ain't that person. He's never really been that person, but definitely not since the 2020 season. All you got to do is look at his numbers. They have gone straight down. And he still can't hit a jumper. He's 0% from 3. How does that help your team to have a player that can't hit a spot up 3 at the top of the key? Ever. I don't need him to do it every night, but I need you to at least be a threat. Clint ain't that. We need a backup point guard for Trae Young. All these years, we've only had one real backup point guard to note. Real, I guess 2.5. Jeremy Lin and Lou Will. That's it. That's acceptable to everybody. Every time Trae comes off the floor, our offensive rating takes a dive off the cliff. We need a veteran backup point guard to keep things status quo while Trae gets a breather. You see what I'm saying? We don't have that. To not have that all these years, like we don't want to compete at all. We need another defender on the wing from the bench, preferably a veteran. Neither LeVert or Niang plays any defense. I've shown y'all that tape is bad with those guys. Okay, so we need to replace one of them and get a wing defender. So that way you got Dyson as a defender on the front line, on the starting lineup, and another defender coming off the bench. You need those two along with the 7-footers. Instead of giving up 119 points a game, we get closer to that 113, 112 points a game given up. We could win 10, 12 more games a year, guys. Why don't y'all want that? Because Trae Young ain't giving up all the points. Sorry, he just isn't. He ain't gives up 5 threes in a game. Y'all don't say nothing. Trae Young don't be giving up 5 threes in a game. I've shown y'all this. Trae Young ain't the one giving up all the 3. Bogey one time gave up 7 threes in a ball game. Y'all said that's 21 points just on threes. One person. We have to hope that Mo G will turn into a guy to back up JJ. If we do continue to start, like I said, we need to get the best rookie big possible or trade for a center. Put back on the bench. That makes us deeper because we need consistency at all positions. Again, lost 24 games by 10 points or less. We can't let that happen for a third straight year. Can we? Can we get away with that? Why would we? We could have won the division, been a 6th seed easy this year. We really could have. So what's the point, y'all? What's the point? LeBron is better than here it comes. LeBron is better than Jordan. Let's you know what? I'm gonna stop right there. Who's this? Titus? LeBron is better than Jordan. Even if you say that, then LeBron is trash too. Either or, whoever you think is better. If your narrative is Trae Young is trash, LeBron is trash because Trae Young is passing LeBron in some of these things. He's about to pass him in some of the things that are NBA historical facts. Trae Young is about to pass the best player in the world. So you don't think Trae Young is that good? He's about to pass a historical player that's been playing for 20 years plus. Trae Young is about to pass him. He's about to overtake him. And Trae Young has only played 7 seasons in the NBA. You see how that works? You can't say that. Is LeBron trash? Is Jordan trash? Who's trash? Trae Young isn't trash. Dominique Wilkins isn't trash. You see how that works? He's not. Steve Smith, Mookie Blaylock, Dikembe aren't trash. They just didn't have enough help on that team. If the 60-win team had one player that could get them over the top, they would have a world championship. They should have beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. I will say it to this day. If we had Al Horford playing up to his actual potential and being a 24-12 player because he had all the capability of doing it, or if we had Teague time all the time, because we got 2 decent games out of Teague in that 4-game sweep, but the other 2 games were trash. We needed Jeff for 7 games, and we couldn't get it. Trae Young isn't the worst player in the NBA. He isn't overrated. If he's overrated, every player in the NBA is overrated. Trae isn't the worst Hawk of all time. If he is, Smitty, Mutombo, Mookie, Neek, everyone is also trash, like I just said. The Hawks aren't losing games because of Trae Young. You don't have evidence to support that. If you do, show it. I challenge people. Show your evidence. Because I'm showing you the actual games. All you got to do is go to NBA.com, boop, boop, click play-by-play, and you can show every shot that the opposing team makes against the Hawks. And who's giving up, who's the reason of these 3 points going in the bucket? Who's the reason of these fast break points going in? Who's the reason for not being able to guard the pick and roll? And over and over again, I show you who it isn't, and you can't argue with it. So you just don't say nothing. That's crazy to me, but it is what it is. And a lot of this is based off of people who don't even watch Hawks games. You've never been to a game. You've never watched a game. You never reviewed a game. You never done anything. You just hear what other people say. That real big fat guy in New York just likes to say crazy stuff. He's never watched the Hawks. But he wants to actually say Trae Young's career, which is historical, don't mean nothing. But a player who's getting 12 points and 7 assists is better. That's what you're trying to, again, that fat person has never played basketball before in their lives. They don't know what it means to compete. They don't know what to do on a basketball court. I do, okay? And I don't get paid to play basketball. But I know if I was to do some of the things that the Hawks have been allowed to do over a period of time, I would never get picked up in a game. I just got chosen to play in a tournament not too long ago, the oldest player on the court by far. But the reason I got asked to go is because they know I give them a chance to win the game. Period. Whatever I got to do, Chris is going to do it. He ain't going to be selfish. He ain't going to shoot us out the game. He's going to try to get every rebound he can. He's going to try to contest every shot. He's definitely going to pass the ball because he's looking to pass the ball because I'm a passer. Right? Again, Joker is not being switched on to Trae Young and he's posting up Trae Young. That is not happening. So why do you blame Trae when Joker has a 40-point triple-double? Okay? Who's guarding Joker should be your issue. Trae isn't guarding any of the centers. Zubac, AD, Porzingis, Joel, Bam, Turner, Vucevic, Duran, Cat, Chet, Joker, Rudy. Rudy had 25 points against the Hawks at the end of the 2023 season. He was 10 of 10 from the field. You want to try to convince me that Trae Young was supposed to be on Rudy and stopping Rudy Gobert? With his 10-foot reach, Trae Young was supposed to stop him. That's silly to say that out loud. Why do you say it? Because that's what people are saying. Or they're not saying what they're supposed to be saying, which, again, a lie of omission is still a lie, right? Trae doesn't guard Tatum or KD or Giannis or Paolo. They're not going one-on-one against Trae Young. They're just not doing it. There's not switches every single possession on Trae Young. And even if there were, you still wouldn't have an argument because you know what you're supposed to do, either double or switch back. Because that's what I do on my team. If one of my point guards all of a sudden gets matched up on my guy, I'm double teaming him. I'm not letting my short guy get knocked out the box from the center because they were able to pick me off because nobody called it out, right? Call out your defenses. We don't do that as a Hawks organization. What is the real reason that the Hawks organization since 1969 has refused to build a team out successfully? 1969 was the last time the Hawks was in a conference finals until 2014. Think about the math of that, guys. Y'all should be mad not at Trae Young, not at Speedy Claxton, not at none of those people. You should be mad at the Hawks organization. 1969 to 2014, and then only made the conference finals one more time, and that was Trae Young's third year. And y'all didn't want to make that team more successful. Y'all just, we don't want that. Doesn't make sense. Multiple owners, multiple management groups, they can't figure it out after 70 years. That's crazy. Why don't y'all care about that? I think that's wrong. A sweep, the 60-win team. If you're a Hawks fan, don't you want to see the Hawks win an NBA championship? I'm talking to the Hawks fans specifically now. Don't you want to see the Hawks win a championship? Yes or no? Answer that one, if you dare. But why don't you want to see Trae Young not have a chance after you saw what the Hawks did to Dominique after 12 seasons? He only made the playoffs 8 of the 12 seasons he played and didn't really have a chance to win any of them. Remember, Dominique never got past the second round of the playoffs. Why would you wish that Trae Young not make a championship out loud and be for real about it? How do you go to a game and say that 29 points and 11 assists, or 28 points and 6 assists, or 36 points and 11 assists, and 28 points and 10 assists, and 25 points and 12 assists, 29-15, 29-12, 31-8, 35-12, 36-8, 28-13, 38-13, 38-6, 38-19, 35-14, 24-7, 32-12, 34-17, 27-6, 28-11, 45-5, 33-9, 34-10, 22-11, 31-20, 35-13, 23-10, 25-12, 35-15, 38-10 are bad games. How do you say that with a straight face? Just because you hate Trae Young. Nobody else is doing this. Especially when a team wins. How can you just never say anything positive when the team has a good win? And Trae Young is one of the main reasons of the win, to say that. Not the only reason, but he's the main reason. You can't say nothing good, only negative all the time. How do you have that much energy? Even when you see the team leave 40 points on the board from missed shots when Trae keeps passing people the ball and they keep missing all the threes, he keeps passing you the ball anyway, hoping you're going to hit one, and he keeps passing. It's Trae's fault for keep passing you the ball. You're a person on the basketball court that if I pass you the ball and you missed a shot, the next time I'm about to pass you the ball, you say, Chris, don't pass it to me. You're stupid. You know I'm not going to hit this shot. That's your mentality? Team gives up 68 points in the paint. That's Trae's fault? Smallest person on the court? Really? The whole team gives up 25 fast break points. There's only one player on the floor for all of those fast break points. Trae gives up a few fast break points, but all of them? No, he don't. I can show you that. Team gives up 23 threes in a game. You think Trae Young gives up all 23 of those threes? I show you too much tape. No, he don't. He'll give up a couple. He's not giving up 5 or 6, 7 of them like other players do on our team. Garrison Matthews, Niang, Bogey. Again, addition by subtraction. Our defense did get a little bit better this year just because some people weren't getting minutes no more. We stay in more games. I can prove it. I can show you the tape. Trae Young is not trash. Michael Jordan is not trash. LeBron James is not trash. Accomplishments matter. Without statistics, there is no NBA. You're just watching guys run up and down the floor. You're not going to go to State Farm Arena, pay however much you pay for parking, however much you pay for your ticket, however much you pay for food for that evening, just to see guys run up and down the floor, and there's no score being kept. You're not doing that For anybody who says that you will, you're lying to yourselves. It's just a lie. That's a lie. That's a bold-faced lie, too. It's a strong lie. You're going there because you want to see your team win. That can't happen without a score being made. Someone has to score more points than the other team. And so everything that surrounds that is an accomplishment. You got 10 rebounds. That helped your team lessen the amount of possessions on the other team. You got 3 blocks. That's at least 6 points right there that the other team didn't score, right? You had 12 assists. That means you got your teammates the ball enough for them to hit 12 field goals of 3s and 2s. You had 8 free throws. That helped you win that 2-point game because you hit some free throws, right? Right? You had 5 steals. Dyson Daniels almost won Defensive Player of the Year next to Trae Young, who all y'all say nobody can play no defense. That's the reason the excuse y'all gave to Hunter. Hunter can't play no defense because he got to play with Trae Young. That's a lie. Proven again by Dyson Daniels, almost winning Defensive Player of the Year, winning Most Improved, leading the NBA in steals and deflections. When was the last time Hunter led the league in anything defensive related? Much less his own team. He can't even lead his own team in steals or deflections or blocks or nothing. Nothing. All those years. By the way, Hunter averaged like 10 points a game in the playoffs for Cleveland this year. 10 points. That's real good, right? Hunter's a baller. Anyway, Trae Young is not trash. Michael Jordan is not trash. John Stockton, Steve Nash, 2-time MVP, who both years he won MVP. Trae Young has eclipsed those numbers in those 2 particular seasons. Steve Nash had a lot better players around him, though, didn't he? So did Magic Johnson, Jason Kidd, and all these other players. The moment that the Hawks can match up, the Atlanta Hawks will win a championship. It's really just that simple. It's not that hard. It really isn't. And we could be this close to doing it. The East is wide open. It's been wide open for the last few years now, right? But this upcoming season for sure is wide open. All the Hawks have to do is say, our goal is to win the championship. Someone other than Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, within the organization has to say that. We want to win a championship. We just don't care about swag surfing when we're getting blown out by 30 points. I told y'all about that story, me being at the Boston Celtics game right after we had beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee, and we got the Boston Celtics at home on ESPN. I see Doris Burke right there and the other guy right there, and Snowman is in the building for halftime. Y'all know who Snowman is. Come on, right? And we're getting the brakes beat off of us for no reason, really. But all of a sudden, they're going to pull out this swag surfing. I left after that. I drove 2 hours to Atlanta to that game because I had tickets. To see y'all swag surf? 30-point deficit? No, not me. We got to not care about halftime shows and not care about being seen in the A State Farm Arena. The ownership, the management should be like, we need to be doing everything to win a championship. We got the best passer in the league on our team, and we're not giving him enough pieces. We haven't given him enough pieces. We've just kind of slided by and just got lucky here and there. But like literally, we brought in Frank the Tank. Like, why? Like, we brought in the Trash Brothers. Like, why? I did like Jabari Parker, though. But Chandler Parsons, Evan Turner, why? What? What were we doing? You see what I'm saying? TLC, like for real, the 0% guy plays 35 minutes and can't get you nothing, and you won't defend. The Atlanta Hawks gave up 119 points a game again, several times now. They've done that. And one player can't give up 119 points by themselves. I've shown y'all this. The moment we can get that 119 to I don't know, let's be reasonable. Heck, 117. I'm not being picky, but let's get it to 112. Because if we're scoring 118 and we give up 112, again, our win totals skyrocket up. Because now those 24 games we lost by 10 points or less, turned to 12 games possibly. 12 more games, that's 52 wins right there, guys. We're in the playoffs automatically from now on. Let's get that hump out of the way, because you can't win a championship if you're not in the playoffs. Can you? We have the top player in the NBA points per game in the fourth quarter in Trae Young. He leads the NBA in that particular statistic. That means something. That's not trash to be able to do that, to be counted on to score in the fourth quarter or overtime. When you need, we got one of the best players in the NBA on that one alone, and one of the best passers who will keep passing you the ball. He's a league leader in clutch points and clutch assists. He led the league in points generated from assists. He's a league leader, second to Joker, in total points generated. And you don't want to get a little bit better talent around that player. That doesn't make logical basketball sense. When all the other teams say, oh, man, we need to go get Giannis. We need to go get Jason Tatum. He might be available, man. We need to go get Ant-Man. We need to go. We won't try to get some. We're the smallest team in the NBA. We won't try to go get such and such. We don't want Giannis? Like, for real? Career 25 and 10 player? I just told y'all at the beginning of the show. How many 25 and 10 players are there in the NBA? Trae Young happens to be one of them. He's the only point guard. There's only 2 point guards that are close to him. Oscar Robertson, right? And James Harden. Those are the only 2 in NBA history that are close to Trae Young in 25 and 10. And Trae Young has only played 7 seasons. But Trae is trash? Are you sure? There's only 2 people ahead of Trae in 30.10 assist games. One of them is LeBron James. The other one is James Harden again. You sure Trae is trash? Because LeBron, if he's the best player of all time, Trae Young is going to pass LeBron James in that particular category. He's about to pass Michael Jordan in all-time assists. Larry Bird is next. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is next. All time? You need to get together, folks. Atlanta needs a championship bad. And all the Hawks organization has to do is be serious about it. And maybe because the Hawks attendance was dead last in 2024, number 30. Of all the NBA teams, the Hawks were 30th in attendance. Maybe this is the year that the ownership with Tony Ressler says, okay, we need to try to win. Finally, 7 seasons, we just threw down the toilet, so to speak. Now we're going to try to win. There's a lot of wasted years. We're in 3rd season in the NBA. Trae Young gets your team to the Eastern Conference Finals, and all you had to do is double down and say, let's get to the next step. Not, let's go backwards. We did this too fast. What's too fast? That's the silliest phraseology of all time. Oh, we weren't ready. No, the league wasn't ready. We need to get a couple extra pieces and get back to the finals. Or a couple of players should have just kind of chipped in a little bit more, and we still beat the Milwaukee Bucks, and we go against the Phoenix Suns, which we could have beat the Phoenix Suns straight up. We could have beat them. It would have been our first title. Didn't happen, though, did it? Doggone Evan Turner. But anyway, guys, let me get out of here. Let me set this up. Make sure y'all go to the comment section and watch those past episodes. I do have some new game reviews coming. I might try to sneak one in tonight, but I don't think I'll be able to because there's a lot of information. What is the next game? Let me tell y'all the next. I'll go ahead and tell y'all the other games I'm going to do. Hawks, Knicks. The most recent one was Hawks versus Knicks. The next one, April 6th against the Utah Jazz. Then April 8th against Orlando. April 10th against the Nets. April 11th against Philly. April 13th against Orlando. April 15th against Orlando, and then the Miami Heat, the last game of the season, which is the play-in. Then I'm going to pick out some games like I did with the Dallas Luka 73-point game. I'm going to do that Detroit game that I mentioned earlier, and pick out a couple of others. I might do a playoff game from this playoff series that's happening now in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, and maybe a finals game. And then that'll be my reviews done for the year, and then we'll go from there. We're still working on Trae Young interview. as well. So hopefully we can get that done before the summer is over with. For everybody else who likes Atlanta sports, we are working on some Falcons interviews. Hopefully we can get that going. We also are looking at a Brave interview. Not sure who just yet, but we're working on that as well. So again, if you're a fan of Atlanta sports in general, make sure you watch around the ATL. Make sure you subscribe though. Make sure you share. If you watch the whole episode in this particular case about Michael Jordan being trash and Trae Young being trash, and you liked it, make sure you share it with at least one person that understands basketball. It's not really that complicated, but some people are just so out of pocket. It's not reasonable. So I try to make things reasonable, and I use Michael Jordan as an example because he's one of the best ever, right? Because if he's trash, then everybody's trash. But if he isn't trash, everybody can't be trash around him, especially when, look, listen, I'm going to say it again. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Oh, I'm looking in the wrong thing. First, Trae Young is the first rookie since Michael Jordan to put up 45 and 15. If Michael Jordan did it, he can't be trash and Trae be trash. Can they? Past Michael Jordan for second most 30.10 assist games by a rookie in NBA history. The only other player other than Michael Jordan to have 3 straight wins against the New York Knicks in the playoffs in New York. That's a lot of stuff he shares with Michael Jordan. He's the first player in NBA history to record a 45-10 assist game in the conference finals. It was actually 48 and 11. But that's trash? I can't believe it. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here, guys. Y'all take care. Be safe out there and all that kind of good stuff. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the IMTN Worldwide Radio YouTube channel. And make sure you follow along on Twitter. I will be on there a lot more. I hadn't used it in a minute. But IMTM Radio and my co-host Jordan23 ATL on Twitter as well. You can also follow on Facebook and Instagram, IMTM Worldwide Radio. That all being said, I'm out of here. Till next time, y'all take care. Peace.